All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is James Burk. I wear a lot of hats at the Mars Society, but one of my favorites is Marspedia. And I'm here today to talk to you about the last 2 years of work we've done on this. This project has actually been going for a while. It's been going since 2007. The Mars Society joined it 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago this month. We had gotten volunteers over the years asking about, hey, I'd like to help out with Marspedia, and usually those requests would come to me because I'm the webmaster, and I'd have to tell them, well, that's not us, that's the Mars Foundation, Bruce McKenzie, and also this other group called the Moon Society that started Marspedia, as well as a couple other similar wikis, like Lunarpedia. And so we'd have to tell them, well, that's not us, we'll have to direct you. And so one day I'd gotten, about 10 of these requests. I said, we should just be helping them. Why aren't we helping them? So long story short, we ended up kind of taking the lead role in the project. And we have a weekly meeting now with volunteers on Monday afternoons, Pacific time. And it's been 2 years, it's going really well. And so I'm here to talk a little bit about our current progress and what we hope to do. What Marspedia is, it's an online encyclopedia, kind of like Wikipedia, with public domain content. So Wikipedia actually is not public domain, it uses Creative Commons. And the difference is you have to attribute Wikipedia whenever you use its content. You can't just copy it and use it for whatever you want. You actually have to keep that license intact and attribute Wikipedia and attribute all the people that wrote the article. Whereas Marspedia is public domain, and we meant to do that from the beginning so that it is freely available information. There's no restrictions on using it. And so it's also a great way to promote the ideas of Mars exploration and settlement. One of the things we're trying to do is use Marspedia to kind of promote some of the ideas we all have, the ones that we've all been sharing at this conference, put those in a written place that people can access easily. It also is a third thing, it's a knowledge repository for the projects we do and for the organizations, all the chapters of the Mars Society, the other space organizations like NSS and Moon Society. They're all welcome to use Marspedia. It's free to use. You just create an account and start uploading content, editing content. And so you can actually use it for your projects as a wiki. If you don't have a wiki from some other area, some other source, you don't want to set one up, or you don't want to worry about having to maintain it, you can just use Marspedia. And we can actually create areas of Marspedia for those different projects and those different organizations. And then the last thing is, it's a great project for volunteers. Like if you are starting a Mars Society chapter, or you just want to help somehow with the Mars Society, this is a great thing to help with because it can, people of all skill levels can help. One of the first things that we were able to do last year was to create a new category hierarchy. And so when we had started helping out 2 years ago, there was about 400 articles on the wiki, but the categories were a little inconsistent and they weren't really thought out well. They were kind of just randomly created over time. So what we decided to do was think holistically about how we would organize an information resource like this. And so we came up with a hierarchy of over 100 categories covering all aspects of Mars, not only the present day situation with Mars, but also the future. So you could see those first two top level categories, all 100 roll up into these 6. Those first 2 have like some coverage on other websites like Wikipedia, but the other ones really don't. Like this is really kind of our area of talking about the human exploration of Mars, talking about Mars settlement, Mars outreach, which covers all the organizations, and things like public outreach and education for Mars and political action. And then finally, Mars in public culture, all the different movies and music and books, science fiction books, nonfiction books. So we wanted to holistically think about how we would structure all the information on Marspedia, and this is what we came up with. It was an awesome effort by our volunteer team. We met and talked about this topic for dozens of hours over a few months, and we finally came up with this. We made a big spreadsheet that had all the categories. We put all the existing articles underneath those. And then we thought about for each category, what are the articles we want to have? And from that exercise, we came up with a list of needed articles, and you can actually find that in the left navigation. So let me flip over actually and show you Marspedia. I'll just kind of take you through the wiki, kind of a Marspedia 101. Whoops, okay. So basically, this is the main page, which we applied a new design to a couple years ago. And we have a featured article, and then we, right front and center, have all the ways that folks can help and how to use the wiki, how to edit the wiki. I should mention we also added a visual editor so that you don't have to write wiki markdown code to actually maintain the information. You can use an editor that's a lot like Microsoft Word, so non-technical people could help. We have a teacher start page, and then we also pulled in a news feed from marsnews.com and some news about Marspedia itself as well. And it's really easy to use Marspedia. You can just type what you're looking for. So if I want to learn about the hillside settlement for the Mars Foundation, it's got the autocomplete, and it pulls up the article. And I mentioned the categories. You can actually get to those with the browse link in the left navigation. So here's all 6 of our top level categories. And for each one of these, you can drill in and you'll get this little category tree that you can expand and get to all the different categories. And those numbers next to them are how many articles there are for each of these categories. And as I mentioned, we're trying to grow this as much as we can. This list of needed articles, I've just mentioned, these are the articles we want to have. And so as a volunteer, you can come in and look at this list, and if there's something on this list that you're interested in researching and writing an article about, just have at it. Like, go ahead and work on that. You can see some of these are hyperlinked, which means that the article is in progress. When these are done, when these have been reviewed by our editorial team, we take them off this list. But really, anything on here is fair game for folks to contribute to. So,
what's the URL?
marspedia.org. Okay. So in the past year, here's some of the accomplishments we've had. We are now at 619 articles total on the site, which is 122 just in the past year, just since the last conference, Mars Society conference. We also prioritized our list of needed articles available so that people can self-select their contributions, as I just mentioned. We have had several articles reviewed by our editorial team. So we watch the feed of edits to Marspedia, and whenever somebody posts a new article, we have somebody do a quick sanity check on it to make sure it's a high quality article, to make sure it's not like spam or something not about Mars. And so we make sure that all the content coming in is reviewed, and then we'll make sure that it's, we have eyes on it. We also worked on a proof of concept of bulk creating new articles. And I'll talk about this in a little bit, because one of the things we'd like to do is auto-create a whole bunch of articles at once to cover different aspects of the planet Mars. So we're working on a Mars Atlas, which will have articles for each of the named features on Mars, and there's over 2,000 of them. And also this year, several new volunteers have joined the project. So we have a robust volunteer team that meets every week, and we have a lot of people that have really helped out well this year. So let me talk a little bit about the Mars Atlas. Our goal for this project is to make a 3D globe of Mars that would be available not only on the website Marspedia, but that you could also use in virtual reality. And you would be able to zoom in and out of the Mars globe all the way down to the surface, but you'd also be able to access all the different named features of Mars. So all the different craters, all the different geological features, the landing sites for the different missions, those would all be listed on the globe. And then as you zoomed in farther, you'd see more. So if there were really small craters, maybe you didn't see those when you were zoomed all the way out. But then if you zoom into the globe, you start seeing those. And then you can actually go all the way down to the surface and walk around. And that's possible because there's data from the NASA missions that cover all the terrain altimetry and also images of the whole planet. And so now we just need to go do the work to build that in VR and build that in a web accessible 3D environment. And we've actually gotten some progress on that this year, which I'll show you in a second. We are going to have every one of the U.S. Geological Survey named features on this globe. So there's over 2,000 of those that the U.S. Geological Survey has kept track of. And the idea is that if someone wanted to get more information about a feature, they could click on it, or if they're in VR, maybe they point at it, and they'll get an overlay that has all the details of the feature, why it was named that, when it was named, the significance of the name, and then any other ancillary information about that area on Mars. So if there was a mission that landed nearby, or who discovered it, like all that would be available there as well. And so basically we have a proof of concept of this, which I'll show you. So I'll start playing this and talk over it. This is using a technology called 3.js, and our volunteer Josh Baldwin worked on this. And so this is actually working in a browser right now, but you could also use this in a VR headset. And he took a map of Mars and overlaid it over this 3D sphere. And he also has the equator and the 0-degree longitude lines, which you could turn on and off. And you can also see down in the bottom, right, as the mouse is moving over the globe, it's showing you where you are on Mars, which is really important for us to be able to match that with the named feature database. So this is kind of the foundation of what we're going to do. And we're hoping that in the next year, the next time I come to the Mars Society conference, that we can actually show you this all up and running and show you this in VR. So really exciting stuff. We call this our areography section, or Mars Atlas. Areography is another word for geography on Mars. So really excited about that project. Another project we're working on as part of Marspedia is to archive all of the MDRS crew reports. So the Mars Desert Research Station has been around since 2001. There have been over 200 crews. There have been over 1,200 individual crew members. And all of them have submitted reports. All of them have submitted photos. All of them have submitted their bio and their pictures. So a lot of those were on websites that no longer exist. You can actually find them if you use the site called the Internet Archive, but it's hard to do for the general public. And researchers, like some of the ones at this conference, are interested in having all of that in one place and easily accessible and tagged with metadata so they can really easily find information about the different crews. So we're working with a group at the Florida Institute of Technology, led by Hannah Blackburn, to take all of those crew reports and put them onto Marspedia in a structured way. So when we're done, each of the crews will have its own page on Marspedia with all the biographies and headshots of the crew members, all of the crew reports they submitted, and all the photos they took. We'll also be using the Flickr tool for the photos. We got a free license from them to help out with this project. So we're just getting started on this. We do have crew number 1 done, and we have some of the recent crews as well. But again, I hope in a year from now when I come back, we'll have this project mostly done. We have all the photos and reports. We just need to kind of get them in the right format. So that's exciting. And then I didn't want to call this slide the goal for next year because I really see Marspedia as a long-term project. Like, I plan to be working on Marspedia for the next 10 years. And so what are our goals sort of for the 2020 decade? Well, definitely we're going to work through that needed articles list that I showed. We want to get all those articles that we know that we need to write done. We'll keep recruiting people to do that. We'll also put all of the Mars Colony Prize designs. So right now over in the main ballroom, they're judging the Mars Colony Prize contest, which is really exciting for the Mars Society. We had over 100 people enter this contest. They submitted some super high quality designs for Mars colonies. We're publishing a book to feature those. But after that book has been out for a period of time, we also have the agreement with Dr. Zubin and others to put all that information on Marspedia. So Marspedia can be the #1 stop for all the colony designs. And so working with Frank Crossman on that, Frank is also the editor of the book that's coming out. He's one of our core volunteers on Marspedia. So really excited about that. We'll have that done in the next year or two. Work on our VR-enabled Mars Atlas, get that out there. Now some people ask me for the Mars Atlas, isn't there like Google Mars? Like, isn't that pretty similar to what you guys are trying to do? Well, yes and no. Google Mars, there's actually 2 Google Mars products. There's a static website called Google Mars that is pretty old, actually. It has a single map that you can kind of zoom in and out on, 3 levels, and it has topography, but it doesn't have very many of the named features. So this is definitely way better than that. And then the other version of Google Mars they have is when you use Google Earth, you can switch over to Mars mode. And it's similar to what we're talking about, but it doesn't have the deep information on all the named features. And it doesn't have a really high resolution surface view of the areas. So one of the key tests I would like to make for ours is I want to stand on one side of Valles Marineris and just look across. And if I can see the other side, I know we're successful in building a high quality surface model. And then another thing we'd like to do eventually, probably won't be in the next year, but eventually, we'd like to actually publish some print materials. So that might be something like an encyclopedia coffee table book that we have that features a lot of our really expert articles, the best quality articles, maybe has a little section for the Mars Atlas. So something like that would be really cool for us to do. So how you can help, so as I mentioned, anybody can go request an account on Marspedia. You just click the link in the top right of the website, and then one of us will approve you pretty quickly. Usually get back to you in about a day or 2 maximum. And then you'll be able to edit any article. You'll be able to add new ones. You can join our core volunteers that meet every Monday Pacific time. It's at 3 o'clock Pacific time to organize our activities. We have a Trello board that we keep track of all the different project items, and we kind of run through those, and if anyone else has updates or questions, we can go over that. So that's definitely how you can help out. We need people of all skill levels. You don't have to actually know how to code. You don't have to know a ton about science or journalism or anything like that. But we want to, and I should mention, I forgot to mention, we also would like for the next couple years to start a science journalism internship program. We actually tried to get this going last year, we made a list of the top 6 science journalism programs in the United States, all the different universities, like Columbia was one. But we really didn't get a lot of interest from them. We wanted to see if we could partner with them to create an internship program that the students at the university could actually earn college credit through an independent study to work on Marspedia, and then we would do the, any paperwork that they needed, the university needed us to fill out, any like interviews we needed or review sessions we needed to do. We were willing to do that, but we didn't get any interest on their side. So we might pick that up again, but it is something we'd like to do long term, is have interns that are science journalism students, because this would be a great way for them to learn the area of what they're going to go do as their career. So back to how you can help, pick an article from that list and just get started. You could research it. You can kind of send us what you've researched, and maybe that could form the outline of an article someone else would write. Also, if you are a Mars expert, if you've written content elsewhere that you'd like to share with us, maybe condense a little bit of it down, you can actually do that. We have a way to submit content you've already written and give us the rights to it, basically put a public domain tag on it. But if you don't want it to be public domain, if you have spent a lot of time on an article you've written and you'd like to keep your name on it and keep it attribution required, we can do that too. We actually can tag certain articles with a different license. For example, we did that for Nicole Willett, our education director. She had written 6 encyclopedia articles for an encyclopedia project that got canceled, a print encyclopedia. And so she was willing to contribute those to Marspedia, but she didn't want it to be public domain because she actually spent a ton of time on them. So we went ahead and tagged them as Creative Commons attribution required. We put her picture on it, we put her contact information on it, so we could do that for your content as well. And then we also, as I mentioned, we're trying to find, subject matter experts to write articles. So we have a calendar article we've been working on. Sean Moss started working on that. He's written some other materials about Mars calendars. We've talked to Tony Muscatillo about doing an ISRU article. So if you're interested in submitting an article, and I know Bruce, you've probably had written stuff as well for colony designs on Marspedia. So if you're interested in submitting an article and you're a Mars expert, we'd love to get your content as well. It could be a distillation of what you've already done. So last thing, I'd just like to thank all of our core volunteers. These are the folks that have been on the calls this year routinely and helping out and doing what they can. A lot of good work we've done this year. I'm really proud of how this project's been going. And so, yeah, I think we've made a huge impact at the Mars Society for the last couple of years working on this project. So, so thanks, and I'll take any questions you guys have.
I came in late, but did you mention the other PDF space?
I did, yeah. Yeah, so you can look on the left nav. We do have these other sister wikis. There's Lunarpedia, which is run by the Moon Society. And there's one called Spacepedia, which is a more general space wiki. So here's Lunarpedia. It's kind of our sister wiki, all about the moon. And then Spacepedia, this one doesn't have a ton of content. This is a more long-term project. Like this one would be great to have all of the past Apollo and shuttle missions on, for example. So we'll do that eventually. And then there's also this one that's like a dictionary. It's called Exo Dictionary. So all the different technical space terms could be up here. So yeah, these are the sister wikis of Marspedia. So, any other questions? Okay. Well, we got like 5 minutes left. So, thanks a lot, everybody. All right. Have a great rest of your conference.
Any suggestions? Who would like to get involved with it, but do it, think of it, a little different way or a different type of article?
I just thought of a question. How does your Mars VR play?
How does Mars VR play into this? So I mentioned the Mars Atlas that we're working on. We would eventually have that as part of Mars VR. Like when someone goes to download Mars VR on the Steam store or off of GitHub, then this would actually be part of the experience that they would have.
Mars VR is not for a Mac.
Mars VR currently works on Unity, which you could run on a Mac if you had the right headset. Because Unity is a cross-platform software. So, any other questions?
I have to confess that I really haven't paid much attention at all to Marspedia until now. That's one major reason why I'm here. But I'm wondering, we have hundreds of well-written articles on Mars-related materials in our archives from our conventions. And can some of them, now they have, with permission, can some of them be included?
So we would need to go reach out to the authors of those papers. You're talking about our Mars Papers archive. So that's kind of another site we have, marspapers.org.
Right.
All the conference papers go into there.
Correct.
And everyone that submits an abstract agrees that it would go into that. But because Marspedia is public domain,
Mars Society, right.
It's a whole different, like you're crossing a barrier there that's, like you would need to go get permission again from the author to have it be on Marspedia. So, but there are some examples.
Some of the best ones that would be helpful, probably.
I mean, it would be a great volunteer project for somebody to just go through and try contacting all those authors and ask them to, number one, can we have your permission to republish your material on Marspedia? If not, would you be willing to write a summary of your topic for Marspedia? And here's a suggested category it could go in. That's a good volunteer project for somebody. Not you, okay.
I mean,
James, let me address that. So the important thing is that it be out and be publicly available. And if it already is on Mars Papers, then it's lower priority to get it available 2 places than 1. But what it really needs is indexes. Mars Papers needs to be indexed down to the paragraph level, and that's just an awful lot of hand labor. Yeah. So if anybody would like to, it'd be great to go through Mars papers and pick out chunks of papers and index them into Marspedia under the topic. You know, but one Mars paper might cover, you know, producing fuel, producing breathable gas, producing water, and that really should be 3 different Marspedia articles.
That's a full-time staff.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. So.
It is.
Now, one of the things we did do with this category hierarchy is we thought about, do the Mars papers categories fit into this as well? Because there was a whole set of categories on Mars papers archive. We wanted to make sure that those were compatible with this, and they are. We have them synced 1-to-1 now. We also went and looked at the Mars Society. I don't know if you know this. We actually video all of our conference proceedings since 2011 and put them all up on YouTube. So there's over 1,000 videos on YouTube of individual conference sessions, just like this one we're having. We went through and categorized all of them as well with all the YouTube videos with these categories. And we added a hashtag to each video that corresponds to a category name. So you can actually go on YouTube and search for one of these categories and get all the Mars Society topics, all the Mars Society conference talks about that topic. Any other questions? We got 2 minutes left. Yes.
Well, I just wanted to comment on the indexing. With the indexing, there's a technique where you look at an article, and every word in the article is picked up with about 6 words to the left and 6 words to the right of that key word. And so it ends up with a tremendously large database, but in this day of terabyte storage, it's pretty easy to do, and you can mechanize it. In other words, a programmer could scan through articles.
Yeah, although you only want to do keywords. That was done years ago with all the Unix documentation, and I forget the name of that style.
Yes, but the problem was we didn't have the memory that it required. Now we do. You know, terabyte disks hold a lot of information. So you can take a slew of articles using the keyword. If you remember a keyword, you're looking for a certain thing, you could just go down the list of, look for that word, you get a hint on each side of it, what the sentence is about.
Yeah,
And
let me throw that at James. Could we have, when people are reading a Marspedia paper, could we have a facility where they say, oh, you should add the keyword to this, you know, and index it to this paper?
Like suggest
To this
keywords.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Possibly, yeah,
suggest
possibly.
keywords. So the reader would suggest keywords, but not at the paper level, at the section or paragraph.
I see what you're
of the
saying.
paper.
Yeah, we could talk about that.